Hi guys, welcome to the webinar today. We have got Neeraj Verma from NICE, who will be talking to us about automation of interaction analytics to educate and brief the market, our community, about what's happening next in the automation space. Hi Neeraj. Neeraj, thank you for joining us for this webinar to share your insights and experience in this particular space. Neeraj is the Global Technology Solution Executive for NICE. He is immersed in analytics space. He has got a couple of speech analytics patents also registered in his own name, and he has come to NICE after acquisition of a market leader in speech analytics, Nextedia. So let's start with, what is interaction analytics all about, and how is it solving the business problem?
Oh, thanks for the introduction there, Mohit. So we'll try to keep this session really targeted, right? So really, what is interaction analytics about, right? What is that term? I know we throw it on all the time. If you're a business in today's market, your customers are interacting with you in a multitude of different ways. They're not just calling you anymore. Interaction analytics is really about looking at all the touch points that you have with your clients. And, on average, a company has about 6, whether you've got social media, you've got chats, you've got online forums, you've got phone calls, you've got emails, all different points of contact. They're really, the biggest issue with all of these is they're usually siloed. They're mashed up. They're really unconnected and always unstructured. You never have a real good place to look at all of them in one place. And really, the interaction analytics is about taking that data and using it to force real business change.
So how this is solving the business problems, the current contemporary business problems which the companies are facing?
That's a really great question, right? So if you think about interaction analytics once again, all companies, all large corporations, they're going to have a lot of data around their interactions, right? Things like CRM data. They're going to have data warehouses, all this, once again, mishmash of data. Interaction analytics is about taking the unstructured masses, as we kind of said before, structuring them into what we consider these large-scale behavioral events, right? So what are your agents truly doing on conversations? What are they doing on their chats? What are they doing on their emails? What are your customers talking about? Well, what kind of retention offers are your agents giving when your customers are threatening to leave? So what is interaction analytics typically doing, and how we're targeting to fix business issues? Well, we're working with the sales and marketing teams to help improve sales effectiveness. We're working with the churn and retention teams to create models, to create predictive models that'll help you say, well, which one of my customers are more likely to leave tomorrow, and why? What could I possibly do to save them? We're helping you manage costs by reducing average handle time, by increasing first contact resolution, that is. We're helping you ensure, we're working with your security teams to make sure that you're compliant in all the data that you store and the conversations that you take. And of course, last but not least, extremely important, we're working with your CSAT teams to make sure that your agents and your company are being represented the right way in all conversations.
So Neeraj, that's the missing block in the puzzle, or is the most important block in the puzzle?
Exactly. The most important block in the puzzle is always going to be every single touch point that you have with your client. If you're not examining them, if you're not using them, then it's really a waste. It's a gold mine of data.
So Neeraj, as we have got multiple channels for interactions, it also becomes very important who is sponsoring this particular initiative in the organization. So I would like to throw a poll to the audience about who is sponsoring this current initiative of interaction analytics in their organization. So we have options like CEO, CFO, CXO, Chief Customer Experience Officer, CIO, or no one currently. In your experience, with which CXO level, like the CEO, CIO, you have more interactions when you start any engagement? So who is the real sponsor in your journey or in your pitch to the client? We're just sharing our poll's results with everyone, and it's not surprisingly, I would like Neeraj's views on the outcome of this poll.
Yeah, this is actually exactly what we expect. It is really a brand new market. I know interaction analytics has been around a long time, but in the context of using it for this particular purpose, it's really brand new, right? So oftentimes organizations really don't know where to start and where to go and really who should be the sponsor. The most successful clients that we have, the sponsors are going to range from the CFO all the way down to the CXO, right? The CFO is, of course, concerned about really how could I save money, right? What could I possibly do to save money? And the CXO, of course, they're going to be concerned about how could I make the experience better for my customers.
So Neeraj, when you start the conversation, it is mostly with CIO or it is with the CFO?
You know, we really try to start the conversations with the CXO, right? They understand really, if you think about them, right, their entire job is to make sure the customers are happy. So they're super interested in actually hearing and looking at what the customers are talking about within the conversations, right? So when we talk about this missing puzzle piece of interactions, right, that's the most important thing to them. We love starting the conversation with CXOs.
After looking at the results, it becomes more evident and it's become more important to understand how this interaction analytics is evolving. Looking at the poll of no one is currently managing in any organization or leading this initiative in any organization. So can you please share your views on the evaluation of interaction analytics, which is also a topic of our next session?
Absolutely. If you think about interaction analytics, right, I've been talking about what are the interesting use cases and the solutions that we're going to get out of interaction analytics. But if you think about what interaction analytics is really about, it really starts at taking your data, right? So in this particular case, we're saying audio, right? But it could be any different number of sources. It could be hundreds of different sources. We're taking all those different sources and we're going to structure them. We're going to structure them in such a way that they're not only searchable, but that you can derive value from them. We're going to organize your interactions into large-scale taxonomies, right? We're going to figure out what are people talking about? Why are they calling in? Why are they chatting me? Well, why did they come to my webpage? Then we're going to go in here and really, as we ask those questions, we're going to start looking at events that are happening on the conversation to drive the conversation one way or the other. Then, if you think about that, what's the next step, right? You've identified the event. Now, it's really time to quantify, right? When I talk about quantification, right, whenever you talk to an executive, they always want hard numbers, right? It's, yeah, you know, I think this is important, but how often is it really happening? Is it 2 times or is it 2 million times? We're going to help you quantify how often these events are happening. And really, after the quantification, the 2 most important pieces of interaction analytics really happen. When you start quantifying, you'll discover 1, cases for automation. 2, you'll discover great training exercises and possibly even behaviors that certain agents are doing that you should emulate. But then it's going to be the task of your company, of course, with help from consultants, to help derive those decisions, right? After all, interaction analytics and really any type of analytics that you do within your business is not going to be valuable unless you can derive the data all the way down into your business, whether that's, once again, automating processes or making changes within your agent's infrastructure.
These models keep on evolving because interactions are ever evolving.
Now, if you think about predictive modeling, right, we're going to get into a little bit of a use case later on, so I'll save the use case. But you're absolutely right that as customers change over time, right, the way that people represent certain events, so churn is a great example of this, right? People, once again, don't leave a company just out of the blue, right? They've got a lot of events that happened in the past that have influenced them to leave. You're absolutely right. Conversations will evolve over time, so you have to keep these models in place, and you have to make sure that they're updated as time changes.
What I would like to ask you is that when you build models and you create correlations to the models, and some of the parameters or variables in the model are very evolving, can you give an example that how you manage that model?
Absolutely, right. So there's a lot of different ways to think about predictive modeling, right? So I'll kind of give you an example. Let's just say you're a telecommunications company. When you're a telecommunications company, you're going to have a significant amount of data, right? Now, the most important thing to influence whether a person leaves, right, is, of course, data you've already got, right? So What is the person's plan? Are they under a contract? Is the contract going to end soon? Did they have a bill spike? Now, what interaction analytics adds to that is the unstructured data, right? So if you think about it, is the customer unhappy? So we're adding the propensity of what's their sentiment, right? In the last 10 conversations, how happy have they been? Or are they talking about outages all the time, right? All these events, the system will output this data so they can very easily be imported into a predictive model generator.
I would like to understand, since we have got this poll where 86% of the audience are still have no one to sponsor this initiative in the organization, can you please explain the analytics journey and the maturity currently?
It's a really tough challenge in the first place. Customers aren't going to be, people are going to more than likely say, look, we don't need interaction analytics. I've already got, once again, all this data that goes around my interactions, right? I already know who I'm talking to via my CRM. Why do I need to analyze the conversations, right? So once again, it always comes down to the fact that when you go into meetings with your CXO or your chief experience officers or your vice president of customer experience, the questions you should always ask them is, have you heard any of the conversations with your customers? What are they really saying about product A? Well, they might have some anecdotes. Do they really have some quantifiable data that says, look, our customers are calling in about our high-speed internet, and they're really complaining that they're not getting the speeds that they want. And it's happening 52.6% of the time. When you really give them that kind of compelling use case, that's how you get those sponsors. So Mohit, as we move on to the analytics journey and maturity slide, I ask of your experience in the market landscape. What do you really think about this?
Yes, Neeraj, I think it's very interesting questions again, from advisory point of view. We are also seeing that the market, most of the companies are currently in their first phase to initiate this interaction analytics in a big way. Currently, they don't have sponsors, which is evident by the poll we have just got done. They are in different categories of maturity. Some are doing ad hoc, like they're doing one-off proof of concept. They are doing single channel view or analytics. Some are doing in a batch manner, like they're doing quarterly. They are getting measurable single channel, not all the channels. The third category is operational, who are doing repeatable, measurable daily, typically single channel, short horizon. And the topmost, which are very few currently who are using it strategically, who have got real-time, measurable, omni-channel approach. And we are seeing more people coming to the last one, strategic, from ad hoc, batch, operational, and move to the last one. So this also represents that this market is evolving. The journey of the customer in this space of interaction analytics is evolving. The requests we are getting from the clients are increasing day by day. So I think they are moving from ad hoc to batch to operational to strategic mode. So Neeraj, as you know, every company, when they start any project or any strategic initiative, they have to go through their drivers, business case. So I want to understand from the audience what they think are the drivers for automation of their interaction analytics. FP reduction, process efficiency, error reduction, or everybody is doing it. So Neeraj, you are traveling around the globe. You are currently in Japan, Tokyo. Thank you for your time speaking to us. So what you're seeing around the globe, which market is more evolving? Japan, US, UK, Singapore, Australia?
If you think about the global interaction analytics market, right, the reason I come to Asia so often is because the market is really just starting to get to that point of inflection. Right, the US, interaction analytics, a pretty fairly mature market, right? Most of the large companies there have a nice interaction analytics platform, or they're trying to expand that platform. In Asia, it's really an interesting, as I said, interesting market where companies are just starting to discover how valuable interaction analytics can be. So they're starting to create that need. So it's really an interesting experience, right? I think Australia is slightly more mature than the market in Japan. In China, India is really, really coming up fast, right? There's a lot of vendors out there, and there's also a lot of requirements from these companies to make their customers happy.
I think I'm also very impressed with the poll results, because it is mostly, it was my perception that the clients are looking to reduce the bodies, in the other conventional automation initiatives. But for interaction analytics, for interaction channels, I think it's the process efficiency which is driving them to consider interaction analytics. Are you surprised with this outcome, or you think that the clients are moving from FT reduction driver to process efficiency in a big way?
You know, we're actually seeing it's market-based, right? If you think about it, in Europe, they're less concerned about process efficiency for some reason, and they're more concerned about FTE reduction. But this is exactly the type of poll that I've noticed worldwide, right? Worldwide, people are going to how could I make the 50 different processes that I've got in my contact centers more efficient, right? And it's really about discovering what makes those processes inefficient.
So Neeraj, this also brings to the next slide, and I would like to understand from you, what is the life cycle of this interaction analytics?
When you think about a good interaction analytics governance program, right, so you're going to hear me say the word governance a lot, right? So interaction analytics is a very, very interesting technology, right? Every single time we go into a customer to really help them figure out what interaction analytics is, you get thousands of different projects that people want to take on. Someone could be as simple as, you know what, I want to know how many times my customer is saying the word hello, right? It's the technology that people have never had before. So you get into this weird mode of, I've got thousands of different projects. Do I just let people play with the system and hope for the best? And it really never works out that way. Our customers never find really value if you do that. The best way to find value out of an interaction analytics system is to really think about the right types of projects. You have to have governance around the business objectives and the right questions to ask, right? So it could be, well, I know my average handle time on these particular conversations are long. And if I reduce this average handle time, I might be able to save $1.6 million, right? So you're starting off with a great objective. After you're coming up with that objective, you're making sure it's prioritized, and then you're connecting the issue with data. That's really one of the most important things and what really interaction analytics adds. We're structuring your data so you can actually have real quantifiable results to say, my average handle time is long because it's taking my agents 58 seconds on average to check a balance. Now, after that, you've got the quantifiable data. You've got the business objective. You need to make sure that the analysis plan isn't fragmented, right? Once again, have governance around the analysis plan. What does that mean? People are always going to want to use anecdotes to explain things away, right? They're going to be like, well, I know what you're saying, but I heard this one conversation, or, I've heard from someone else about this XYZ. Make sure your data is truly backed up by something that's quantifiable. That's the main key.
In what terms? Dollar terms, CSAT terms, FT reduction terms? What should be the different segments or category or buckets of quantifiable data?
That really comes up with when you start with a business objective, right? You want to quantify what that business objective is going to be worth to your business. So you're absolutely right. It could be FTEs. It could be dollars. It could be customer satisfaction, right? So one of our customers, all they really care about is customer satisfaction. So they notice that their agents are transferring within the first 5 seconds of a conversation. The first 10 seconds, something very, very short before they can even hear the customer's problem. Not only is that not a good use of their time, but it really puts pressure on our customers, right? The customers don't want to sit around on hold. They don't want to be bounced from agent to agent to agent, right? So all of these issues are going to be, once again, quantifiable in different manners, right? Whether it be CSAT or whether it be real hard ROI of I want $1 million back.
So what's the next step after doing the quantification?
After the quantification's really been made, right, you have to figure out, once again, the events and behaviors that are happening, right? Are there processes to be automated? Are there agent behaviors that I can fix? After those, once again, quantifications are completed, I'm going to help drive the change down to my business. This is one of the biggest things. Operationalizing your data is the most important thing when you do analysis. Analysis is great, but remember, analysis isn't worth anything if you've just got a nice PDF on your desk that's not, driving value to your business. So you've always got to make the change. Remember, after you make the change, you've got to spend the time to measure it. Oftentimes we see companies going there and making large changes to this organization based upon this valuable data, but they never measure what's really working and not working.
Thank you for those very experienced insights. So can I ask you, and this is also a theme of our webinar today, so what is the automation of interaction analytics?
So if you think about interaction analytics, people, especially in the context of automation, right, the process efficiency, I guess, in this particular case, if you think about that, most customers are really stuck in this world of, you know what, I don't really know where to get started. And it's not a bad position to be in, right? If you just really think about interaction analytics, the easiest way to help start off is what we consider segmenting the conversations to the right place, right? So you're taking all of your conversations, whether they're emails, whether they're chats, right? They're all in the same place, and you're segmenting them by using interaction analytics, so you're categorizing them. Then you're making sure the right calls go to the right people, right? So now, instead of your quality guys blindly diving into your data and saying, I'm going to listen to 5 calls per agent per day and hope for the best. Now, what they're doing is they're listening to 50 calls, and all those 50 calls are going to be incredibly valuable. They're going to be exactly what you're looking for to make changes in your business. That's one of the easiest ways to get started when you think about process automation. So what's the next step after that? If you look at interactions, interaction analytics isn't just about taking the interaction and analyzing it, right? It's also about taking the data of the interaction and bringing it into one place. Now, what does that really mean, taking the data of the interaction? One of the great pieces of data that you can drive out is really the events coming from a desktop, right? So let's just say you're an insurance company, or you're a telecommunications company, or you're a bank, and one of your processes that gets initiated is account opening. We can bring that conversation, we can bring that topic directly into an application and tell you, overlay on top of the interaction, here's where my agent started to open a account, and here's where they finished. Well, that's taken a significant amount of time. Maybe that's a process I could look for automation. And on top of that, what could you overlay? Right, so you've got these great events that are coming from your desktop. You know exactly when your agents are opening accounts and when they're finishing. But what are your agents really inefficient at? What are they doing in the time that they're opening an account? Are they spending time on Salesforce? Are they spending time on the internet? Or are they spending time on Gmail? You need to be able to overlay all pieces of information, once again, in a unified platform in the right way, so you can look for processes that need to be made more efficient. You're looking for inefficiencies inside of your business.
Okay. Neeraj, thank you very much for this insight and how we can automate our interaction analytics. Just open up us to the next poll, which I would like to, also want your views after it is done. That which tools currently the clients have or the audience have in their contact center, where you have majority of interaction happening. Since NICE controls more than half of the market, what you think are the differentiators which your NICE tool has got?
There's a reason why Nexidia and NICE control really half the market. It's all the way down to the technology underneath. We're the only company in the market that actually has developed their own technology. Right, so when you think about it, not licensing it from anybody else. We control our own destiny, and so we can control how accurate it is, how reliable it is. That's one of the biggest key differentiators between us and everybody else.
Can you just throw some light on the some new features of NICE Speech Analytics tool? I think version 12 point something.
One of the biggest differences, I think, one of the most exciting changes we've seen are some of the great process automation tools, right? So if you're trying to make your processes more efficient, which looks like exactly what you guys are trying to do, Nexidia now allows you to track the individual processes that your agents are taking care of on a regular basis. It's incredibly important when you're trying to make processes more efficient, because now you can contextualize them.
So, Neeraj, we also have got our polls results now. 23% are using NICE, 8% are using OpenText, and 9% currently don't have any tools in their portfolio. So do you think it's a very big untapped market for you, or the market is just starting to evolve, so they're catching up?
I think it's a huge untapped market, right? So this is exactly what we like to see. A lot of people don't have interaction analytics right now. The market's really mature, but people are still looking for a good interaction analytics tool to really fill in the gap that they have. And this is exactly what we love to see, right? We know a lot of people are using NICE. We want to make sure that they're using the right way. But of course, there's a lot of people, 69% of your police. So we've got, a couple hundred people here that are not using any real interaction analytics or any analysis tool within their call centers. It's going to be really important for us to help and really drive this market down.
Which verticals you think are most suitable for speech analytics or interaction analytics? And who are ones who are leading it also?
The answer is always going to be, hey, every single vertical's got some openings for interaction analytics. Now, where does it work the fastest and where does it give the value immediately? It's always going to be the telecommunications companies, right? They've got a lot of conversations that come into their call centers on a regular basis about the same topics over and over and over. So when you talk about process inefficiencies, the inefficiencies add up over time within these millions of conversations. So telecommunications companies always are the best targets for process automation and really figuring out what inefficiencies exist. Now, the banking and healthcare sectors they've got a pretty interesting use case here as well. They're really pressured by the government in the context of compliance, right? That's one of the biggest things that's driving the market in the last year and a half is compliance. Governments want to make sure that you're handling conversations in the right way, and they want to make sure that your agents are speaking to customers in the right way. They're not being rude, and if your customers are complaining, the government wants to know about it. So compliance is, over the last couple of years, has really picked up as a really, really great use case that comes in incredibly fast.
So how are the companies or organizations embracing interaction analytics? It's quite comprehensive portfolio of clients you have got here. So can you also walk us through some of the case studies that how they're starting their journey, what benefits they have gained, what were their drivers, and where they are in their journey?
So, we'll really start off with a couple of telecommunications companies. So as I said again, telecommunications companies are incredibly fast in adopting new technologies. And of course, they've got an incredible amount of varying use cases that they can apply new technology towards. So we'll go through, Verizon, one of the largest telecommunications companies in the world, and I think they're the largest triple play provider in the United States. So what did we do for Verizon? So Verizon's using a product from one of ours called Nexidia Real-Time. So what does this real-time product really do? As customers and agents are conversing on a phone call, we're able to detect the speech patterns. We're able to tell what the customers are saying, what the agents are saying, and compare them to rules that are written by quality guys. So in this particular case, we're able to take the conversation, and this is for sales effectiveness, right? So it's a really interesting use case for them. This is in the context of sales effectiveness when the customers are, let's just say they're buying a new iPhone. Let's just say they say, I want a bigger iPhone. I want the 128 gigabyte iPhone instead of the 64, instead of the 32. Maybe that's a great opportunity for your agent to upsell a higher data cap. They can say, look, your data is not going to be enough for this larger iPhone. Wouldn't you like 10 gigabytes instead of 5? So now they're tracking upsell opportunities based upon really what's spoken in the conversation. Instead of having the agent having to memorize what's really going on, the system's automatically recommending what to say in a conversation. It's really a great efficiency that they've gained, right? Rather than the agent having to pull up 4 or 5 systems, the analytic system is automatically recommending using a combination of process automation and, of course, what's being said on the conversation. So it's a really interesting use case, and I love mentioning this one because it's so unique, I think. I want to move on into, once again, another telecommunications company. I'm sure everybody here has heard of Comcast. So Comcast has done a really good job of creating a churn model. So what does a churn model really mean? As a telecommunications company, everybody's got issues with churn. What is churn? It's when customers leave your company. I've mentioned before that customers don't really leave a company. They don't wake up in the morning and really say, look, I don't like Comcast anymore, I'm going to quit. No, there's a combination of events that happen in the customer's past that are going to influence them to leave right now. So Nexidia and NICE has been able to pick up events in a conversation, right? So it might be, look, the HBO's got canceled. The customer called in 6 months ago about their bill going up. Then they called in 2 months ago because their internet's continuously not working. Then they called in a month ago because their modem's been replaced. Or they called in a week ago because the technician that was supposed to come out to their house was an hour late. All these events add up to a propensity of the customer to leave. So we were able to point these interaction events out to the customer so they can use them to create a feature-rich model to predict who's going to leave next. They saw a massive improvement in what they already had, a 30% improvement in the ability to really spot returners. It's incredibly important. So I'll go over, I'll kick off to a different vertical here. I kind of want to mention Scotiabank since this is really fresh in my mind from what we've been doing. So one of the important things about what we've done for Scotiabank, this is really revolving around process automation. They had really no way in the past of knowing what their conversations were about. They had these agent disposition codes, and they had thousands of them. Now, if you've ever seen a contact center, you know for a fact agent dispositions don't really work. Agents are pretty much going to pick first one on the list, second one on the list, or some agents might be good, and they might spend 10 minutes looking for a proper disposition code. Using the interaction analytics, we discovered what agents were doing and how much time they were spending. We were able to really segment those thousands of interaction disposition codes down to 10. So it went from 1,500 all the way down to 10, saving millions in agent efficiency. It's really an incredible thing if you think about it, right? Never having the ability to examine your conversations, and now you've got a clear lens all the way down into the smallest piece.
So Neeraj, is it also possible for you to discuss one of the case studies in the hospitality, global hospitality clients which you have recently won?
I'll mention that, they're one of the largest hospitality companies in the world. We're really primarily focusing on sales effectiveness with them. And they've got some really interesting use cases, right? So I'll point out some of them. These may not be exactly process automation related, but they're really interesting to hear nevertheless. When a customer calls into a hospitality company, what are they looking for? They call in and they say, I would like to book a hotel room. If there's no hotel rooms available, the agent says, well, we've got nothing available at Hotel A, and then they hang up. They say, sorry, good luck next time. What's wrong with that conversation if you think about it? Well, what's truly wrong with that conversation is going to be that the agent knows that there's more hotels from that brand right down the street. Why aren't they checking them, right? There's a hotel right across the street that's half empty. The company had no idea on how to examine what their agents were saying. So we were able to go in and say, look, all of these agents that are saying we have no rooms available, they're not even going to initiate the process to check if there's rooms available right across the street or right across the town. So we were able to save them tens of millions of dollars just on use cases around sales effectiveness, that being one of them.
I think very valuable insight from you, Neeraj, on the case studies and the real life example of usage of interaction analytics. This opens up into our last session of today's webinar, which is very, very important from the audience point of view because these questions we have got from the audience. And I would like to have your insights or answers for these questions, which has been sent to us by the participant of this course. So what are the components of business case for the organization who are starting the journey for interaction analytics?
So, we kind of talked about this early in the conversation. The components that these guys, the companies that haven't really started interaction analytics, right, it's always going to come down to what's the easiest, smallest portion I can manage, right? What am I looking for? In this particular case, I know I've got a lot of processes in my contact centers, right? I've got a lot of, even in my back office, I've got a lot of processes. How do I figure out which processes are truly inefficient, right? Which processes are causing my agents the greatest heartache, and which processes are causing my customers the greatest heartache? If my customer is waiting 20 minutes to figure out why a late fee was charged because my agent has to log into 50 different systems, well, that's a great process that we can automate. So those are the real components, right? You have to have the right problems to solve.
So, Neeraj, I think you have explained the components also when we were looking at the major drivers for the companies to automate interaction analytics. The second question is, where does the automation create the most benefit in this journey?
Where does process automation really fit in, and where does it create the real, the real most benefit? Right? It's where for which companies have the greatest amounts of overhead, right? So if you think about telecommunications companies, they've got 20 different processes, right? So if I want to open an account, well, great. So I have one system where I have to provision a phone number. I've got another system if they want to transfer a phone number, I've got to do that. And I've got to go to my banking and finance department to create an account for billing. Then I've got to go and check their credit to make sure that I can open an account for them. All of those processes, as I said, can be automated very easily if we use interaction analytics to really figure out what's the biggest change I can make. What's the biggest driver for my inefficiencies?
One poll which we have missed and which also aligned to our current state of market and also what audience have also polled is, I would like to understand the view about at what point of journey currently the audience thinks their companies are at. Are they at strategy level, market research level, RFP level, implementation, or they still have to start the journey? So Neeraj, we have seen that the companies have not started it yet. Mostly they don't have any sponsor, and they are getting more information from webinars, from what's on the website. What and how generally you are educating the market through NICE?
The way that we try to educate the market is to really highlight the issues that your customers are facing, right? After all, if you look at an organization, one of the most important things for you, for essentially any organization, is going to be, what is your customer feeling, right? So we try to ensure that the highest number of frustrations from the customers are really brought to the client's attentions, right? So oftentimes companies don't know that their customers are facing issues in the context of waiting 45 minutes for an account to open, or how do you figure out how happy a customer is in a conversation? No one can really answer these questions. When we go around the market, we try to educate customers on what's driving all of this.
2/3 of the audience have not started the journey as yet. 11% are still in strategy phase. 22% are doing implementation. Any views from your side on this?
Yeah, this is exactly what I expected to see when we did the initial polls. A lot of people are still in the process of, well, I don't know what I'm looking for. What is my business really lacking? It's not a bad place to be in, right? Since you're still examining the market, and this is what we're here for, right? To kind of help you strategize around what does your business lack and what issues are you having, and how could the products out there and how could the consulting out there help you fix those issues?
So Neeraj is also open up to the next question on our list, which is like, are you providing any training to enable the clients to implement this by themselves? Because the skill set we assume in the market is very limited. So how are you addressing that particular question?
Now, Nexidia offers, and NICE in general and a lot of companies offer what we consider managed analytics services, right? So what does managed analytics really imply here? Managed analytics is a way of bringing experience into your business, right? Oftentimes when you think about speech analytics, and really any other analytical platform on the planet, it requires experience. Not from a product perspective, right? Because you can very easily learn the product, right? We've got great training classes on doing that. Our managed analytics services teams, really their job is going to be bringing experience solving issues using speech analytics. And the way that we like to describe our analytics platform, and really most analytical platforms on the planet, analytics is not something you buy, it's something that you do. So our managed analytics services teams that have tens of years of experience will help you get up to speed on really how to solve problems using speech analytics.
Neeraj, we have got about 7 minutes left in this webinar, and I'm very, very happy and proud that 80% of the participants who started with us are still with us. So they're very interested in the topic, and they are very involved and interactive in the whole journey of this webinar. So can we select a few questions? What is the science behind Nexidia's product?
Nexidia is founded out of Georgia Tech. So Georgia Tech is one of what I like to think is one of the premier universities in the world around technology. For the last 15 years, we've been working through Georgia Tech, and we were founded by a professor and a student The funny thing is the student's actually still a part of Nexidia. It's one of the points of our pride is, once again, all of our technology is completely unique. He's written it, and he still works for us, helping us improve our speech analysis technology and our text analysis technology, right? So there's a reason why we own half the market when you think about it. The dedication to the technology. We're not just about putting a pretty picture on top of a pig. We've got the best technology around the market, and really what makes us science around it is our amazing phonetic index. The phonetic index is a way of us structuring audio data for searchability. And not just for searchability, but amazing searchability with great accuracy.
Can we ask you one question, since you have done so many implementation of interaction analytics? What you think were the major blockers or resistance you have seen at the client side, and how you have overcome that?
I'm not going to say IT teams, right, but teams that are afraid of change, right? So you've got to make sure that you're approaching the entire process the right way. Nexidia or NICE or anybody company's job, right, we're trying to help your organization be more efficient and be better. It's never going to be that, hey, look, we're trying to take over your jobs and fire everybody. That's not our goal. Our goal is to make your company more efficient so the people can do the things that they like, and people can do the things that they like more efficiently.
If you have to start the journey again at any client, what will be the steps you will take to restart the journey where you think you could have done better? From any journey, any lessons learned?
I'm going to repeat this again. I love this word, governance. Every single time that we've seen a customer fail using interaction analytics, and once again, any product that we have available, is because they don't have the right governance around solving the problem. There's going to be too many people asking questions. And it's not that we don't want to answer questions, right? But you have to make sure that you're answering the right questions that have the right drivers behind them. Because without the right drivers and without the right ROI, you're not really answering the question. You're just fulfilling a requirement, right? You want to make sure that you fulfill a need in your business via the analytics you do. And that's what a governance program will help you aim towards.
So, Neeraj, when you say governance, how you comply with the privacy laws and regulations? It is bringing to the question number 6.
So governance in the context of what I was saying is internal governance, right? You have to have the right committees to approve projects. But, you make a great point about how does Nexidia help companies comply to rules and regulations, right? So I'll give you a great example from maybe like a collections company. In the U.S., collections companies have different requirements and different laws that regulate them based upon how a conversation's going. So in a conversation, if a customer says they've filed bankruptcy or that they've involved a lawyer, the conversation actually has to change and be different. So we help the customers comply with these rules to make sure that they're not fined, right? To make sure that they're tracking what the government needs to be tracked, and that we're auditing the whole process. So all of it's available to everybody.
One more question I will ask before closing this webinar. So, Neeraj, can you guide us how to figure out what to automate?
So we talked about this in the conversation a little bit with our 2 slides. When you think about what's going to come into your conversations, right, you're marking down what's happening within your agent's desktops, right? You're really figuring out what the processes that your agents are going through via automation, right? So you've got desktop tags coming into your interaction analytics product, and you're reporting on, look, which one of our processes are really taking the longest? Then you're drilling in and helping yourself quantify, if I were to change this process, what would that mean to my business? If I were to shrink it by 10 seconds, would that mean $1 million? Great, I'm going to select this project. When you select this project, the interaction analytics applications will help you guide and help you create the events, figuring out what your agents are doing or doing wrong, and how to drive that change all the way down.
Thank you once again. To very valid point made by you on how to select a process for automation and how to figure it out. We are coming to end to our webinar. Learning from this particular webinar, I will also want to have interaction with the audience, and I would like to have their views or feedback on how we can improve our webinar, what topics to consider for next webinar, and we'll send you the links to the feedback form. And also we will send you the links to this webinar recording. Thanks once again, Neeraj, for taking time out for this webinar.
No, thank you for having me. I enjoyed it.